Hello dear students, congratulations on getting selected in the bachelor's program at Aligarh Muslim University and welcome to the Engineering Graphics lab. The code for this lab is MEA1910. So as you all know that we are going through the difficult times of COVID-19, therefore all the classes and assignment submission will be via online mode until otherwise stated. Now in this lab, before starting the lecture, I would like to share a few things with you, and I'll let you know that how the system in Aligarh Muslim University work and how we are going to do the things in this lab. So firstly, I already have created a Google Classroom for you for all the sections. So all the lectures you will find on this Google Classroom itself. You have to go through those lectures on or during the class timing, and then you can ask your doubts. If you have any doubts, you can ask your doubt during the class. In case you are not able to ask the doubt, or somehow your internet was not working, or for some other reason you are not able to ask the doubts during the class time, you can always post your questions in the Google Classroom, or you can email me via my email ID, which is given in the Google Classroom. Now, I would always encourage you to post your questions in the Google Classroom itself if you are not able to ask the question directly or during the live sessions, because that way, if you are asking any question and if some other student have the same question, so basically I'll be answering to you only, and the queries of that questions will be solved for all the students. So that's why I'm asking you to post the question in the Google Classroom. Now secondly, always try to contact us via email or Google Classroom. Please don't message us on WhatsApp or some other portal. Only it's better if you can ask the questions on the Google Classroom or via email, and this will be highly appreciated. So yeah, I was talking about the lecture. We will be uploading the lecture every week, and you can go through those lectures before or during the classroom, and then you can ask the doubts in the live session itself. After that, before the next week or within 1 week, you have to submit a scanned copy of your assignment or the sheet while using this same Google Classroom, and we will be evaluating it. And please keep in mind that we don't accept any late submission. Okay, so try to be on time. If you have any doubts, ask before the next class, and try to resolve your doubts. Now I have already uploaded the syllabus in the Google Classroom. You can go through it, and I'll be discussing the syllabus in this class also. So let's start with this first lecture, which is the introductory lecture in this Engineering Graphics lab. I will be basically telling you what are the equipments which you need to purchase, how you are going to fix a sheet, how you are going to start your work, and what are the basic idea behind the Engineering Graphics. So first of all, the question is, what is Engineering Graphics and why is it so popular? Why do we call it as the language of engineers? So with the help of engineering graphics, you can clearly define the requirements of any object. For example, if you are having an object, something like this, which is shown on the screen. So suppose you have to ask somebody to manufacture this object. So there are two ways to do so. The first one is with the help of engineering drawing, and the second one is to tell somebody in writing or verbally. So suppose you have to basically convey the requirements of this object. So will it be possible for you to convey this information in the written or verbal form? It would be, I mean, you will be hardly able to convey the correct message. So it will be very difficult for you to write about this and tell that you need a hole which is of diameter 30 as shown over here. You need a hole of diameter 30 over here. You need another hole over here. You need another hole over here, and so on. Then how will you define this curve with in writing or verbally? So that's why we use engineering drawing, which is very popular amongst engineers, and it is also known as the language of engineer, because in a very precise manner you will be able to convey all the information. What is the material, what is the geometry of the object, what is the material of the object, what are the tolerances, what is the finish of the object, and so on, which I'll be discussing in the coming slides. So that's why engineering graphics is very important for you to be a good engineer. And these are the importance of your engineering drawing. Now, as I told you that there are some features which you can, or rather there are some features which you can convey with the help of engineering drawing. The first one is geometry. So in this figure you can see that the geometry of the object is very clearly conveyed to the other person. Okay, so geometry is basically the outline of the shape of the object which you are going to which you need to draw. Second are the dimensions. So again, the dimensions are very clear that for example, the length or the width of this object is 12 at this particular point. Similarly, there is a hole of diameter 16 over here and over here, and so on. All the dimensions, for example, the length of the base is 140, the width of the base is 185, the thickness is 18. So everything, all the dimensions are here clearly mentioned with the help of engineering drawing. The third point is tolerances. This is beyond the scope of your course. You will learn about the tolerances in your second year. So especially those who are mechanical engineering students, they will learn about how to convey the tolerances with the help of engineering graphics. But for the first year students, this is out of your syllabus. Similarly, the material and the finish part also will be taught to you in the second year, and it will be taught only to the mechanical engineering students. But very easily you will see that you will be able to convey all the 5 points: the geometry, the dimension, the tolerances, material, and the finish, with the help of engineering drawing, which would otherwise taken a piece, which would otherwise take 10 to 12 pages if you will keep on writing about the material, the geometry, and the dimension. So and you can see that with the help of engineering graphics we have drawn this object on one sheet itself. Now coming to the syllabus, there are basically 4 units in this course. The first unit basically comprises of the completion of the first sheet, which I'll tell you about in the coming slides. And the second sheet is on plane and diagonal scales and the cycloidal curve. So the first sheet and the second sheet is basically your first unit. In the first sheet you will learn how to draw the margins, how to print the letters, and how to draw a simple object. And in the second sheet, which is on scales, you will learn how to draw the plane and diagonal scales, what is the importance of scale, and what are different types of cycloidal curves and how to draw them. So as you can see that usually when we have the offline classes, we give this sheet number 2 as an home assignment. But for this year, technically all the sheets are your home assignments. So you have to submit the sheets within 1 week from the date of lecture. Now this is your unit 2, which comprises of projection of points and lines. So basically the third sheet is on the projection of lines, and the fourth sheet is on the projection of planes. In the projection of lines lecture itself, we will first cover the projection of points, and then we will tell you about the projection of lines. and the concept of horizontal and vertical plane, the concept of first quadrant, second quadrant, third and fourth quadrant will be introduced to you in the second unit. So this is quite an important and interesting unit. You need to follow the lectures on projection of lines and planes very attentively. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to draw the answers to the questions which will be given to you in the class. And the basic concepts of the the basic concept of the engineering graphics or the engineering drawing will be given to you in this unit itself. The third unit is on projection of simple machine parts and sectional view. So in this unit, you will learn the orthographic projection of different machine parts. You will learn how to draw and how to draw the elevation, plan, and the side views. And the concepts of the vertical plane, the horizontal plane, the concept of the first, second, third, fourth quadrant. Now in this unit, you will learn how to draw the orthographic projection of the machine parts, how to draw the elevation, plan, and the side views, and then how to draw the sectional views. Now sectional views are very important for the complex geometry and for the complicated parts, and this basically gives you the inside of the machine part, the details of the inside of the machine parts. For example, if you have an IC engine, so if you draw the plan and elevation of the IC engine, it will be somewhat rectangular or some basic shape, but the main parts which are inside the engine, in order to draw those parts, you will have to basically section that engine. Okay, so when you section, there are basically the different types of sectional views. The first one is half sectional view, the second one is full sectional view. These two are in your course, so I'll be talking about these two only. So for the half sectional view, what you do, you remove 1/4 of the portion of the machine part, and then you draw the projection. And similarly, for the full sectional view, you remove the half of the part of the half of the machine part, and then draw the projection. So that way you will clearly see the dimensions and the geometry and the shape of the objects which are inside those machine parts. So sectional views and machine parts are again very important. Now next, or the last unit, is your fourth unit, which is isometric projection and the development of surface of solid. Now isometric projection is basically gives you the detailed geometry and the dimension of the machine parts in a single view. Okay, this gives you the details in the single view itself, which is your isometric projection. So we will talk about isometric projection in detail when we'll start the lecture of this isometric projection. And the last one is your development of surfaces. This is again very important. This reduces the wastage of the material. So with the help of development of surface of the solids, you will be in a position to reduce the scrappage. Okay, so you will know how much material exactly, what is the shape of the material, and how much material you need in order to make any machine part or any object. For example, you need to make a cylinder with a hole at the center. So for that, you need to develop those surfaces first, and then you will be in a position to know exactly how much material and what is the geometry of the material which you need for the development of a cylinder with a hole at the center. So these are the contents of your syllabus which you can go through. I have already posted the syllabus on your Google Classroom. Now these are the two books by P.S. Gill and W.J. Luzader. You can follow either of the books, and it's not necessary that you follow these two books only. You can follow any book on engineering graphics, but we at Aligarh Muslim University, recommend these two books only. So you can these basically all the ideas and all the information is clearly given to you in these two books. That's why we are recommending you these books. Now, starting with the first lecture, in this lecture I'll tell you about the different types of lines which you will be drawing on your drawing sheet. So the first type of line is a continuous thick line. The first type of line is a continuous thick line. You will draw a continuous thick line like this. And these lines are basically used to draw the outside border of the machine part. So all the lines which represent the machine part will be drawn with the help of continuous thick line. Okay, and mind it, these lines will not be used for the hidden parts. Whichever whichever edge is visible to you in any view will be drawn with the help of this continuous thick line. Then comes your continuous thin line. Okay, so you can see the intensity of this line is totally different from the intensity of this line. And in this class, we take the intensity of the lines very seriously, because intensity of the line tells me many things about the part of or the machine part. For example, if you will draw a thick continuous line in place of a thin continuous line, it will be treated as the edge of the machine part. However, the thin continuous line is used for the dimension lines, the leader lines, the extension lines, construction lines, outlines of adjacent parts, and hatching. Okay, hatching is again a term which will be introduced to you in the lecture where we will be teaching you how to draw the sectional views. Okay, now coming to the dimension line. Dimension lines are basically the lines used to dimension the machine parts. For example, this line over here is a dimension line. Again, this line over here is a dimension line, and so on. The next one is the leader line. Leader line is basically this line which is used to dimension a circle or a radius. This line is known as leader line. Now, the extension lines are these lines. I will tell you about all these three lines, the extension line, the dimension line, and the leader line, in more detail when I talk about how to dimension any part. Anyhow, for now you can you basically can remember that the continuous thin lines are used for the dimension, leader, extension, and hatching lines, and the continuous thick lines are used for basically showing the edge of the machine parts. Okay, now then comes your continuous thin wavy line. This is drawn freehand. This continuous thin wavy line is drawn freehand, and it is used to show the irregular boundary lines. Okay, this is used to show the irregular boundary line. The fourth one is the short dash medium line. Okay, you can see that there is a gap between two dashes. Okay, so this is your short dash medium line, and this is used to show any hidden part. Or for example, you can see that in this object you have a hole over here. Okay, and from this view, which is the top view, this hole is not visible at all. So we have shown the hole, but since it is not visible, that's why we are not showing the hole with the help of continuous thick line. But since it is present, that's why we need to show the hole in every view. Okay, so for the parts or for the features which are not visible but are present there, for those features we use this dash line, short dash line. Okay, and then comes your long chain thin line. Okay, this line is used to draw the center lines for the holes, the locus line, extreme positions of movable parts situated in front of the cutting planes, and pitch circles. Okay, so you will be using this line as a center line and a locus line, because all these other things are used in the assembly drawing. Okay, now comes your long thick line. at the edges and then thin elsewhere. So you can see that this line is very similar to this line, but the edges of this lines are thick. And the line elsewhere is thin. Okay, so these types of lines are used to show the cutting plane lines. Again, this type of line you will draw in the sectional view. Okay, you will draw in the sectional view to denote the cutting plane. Then comes your long chain thick line. This line is thick throughout. So this is basically used to show the surfaces which need additional treatment. And the last one is rule line and short zigzag thin line. These lines are used to show, basically these are your long break lines. These lines is used at for the objects which are very long or which are very for example, if you have a shaft, okay, your shaft may be of larger length, so you can use this long break lines at the center of the shaft to show a very large shaft within a small area. So these rule lines and short zigzag lines are used for break lines. Now the projection lines are again your continuous thin lines. Continuous thin lines are used for the projection lines also. Now the thing which you need to keep in mind is that this short dash medium line, you can see that there is a dash, then a gap, and then again a dash, then a gap, then again a dash, then a gap, and then again a dash. So the ratio of this dash with this gap is 3:1. That means that the length of this line, if the length of this line is equal to 3 mm, then there should be a gap of 1 mm in between two dashes. Okay, so you need not to measure the dashes every time and then draw, but you need to know that these dashes and gaps are in the ratio 3:1, 3:1:3. That means that if this dash is 3 mm, then the gap will be of 1 mm, and then again the dash will be of 3 mm. Or if this dash is of 9 mm, then the gap will be of 3 mm, and then again the dash of 9 mm. So the ratio of the dash with the gap is 3:1. Similarly, for a long chain thin line which has a long line, then a gap, and then a small dash, then a gap, then again a long dash, then again a gap, and then a small dash, again gap, and then a long dash. So this is in the ratio of 12:1:2:1, which means that if this is 12 parts, then this gap will be of 1 part, then this small dash will be of 2 parts, and then again a gap of 1 part, and then again a long dash of 12 parts. So it will be in the ratio 12:1:2:1:12. This is for the center line. So always keep in mind this ratio and try to draw your line according to this ratio. Again, I am repeating, you need not to measure these dashes and then draw, but try to draw the lines in such a way that these requirements are met. So this was all about the types of lines which you are going to use in this class or in this lab. Okay, I hope the purpose of all the lines is clear to you. In case you have a doubt, you can always ask. Always don't be shy, or don't feel that your question is not worth asking. Okay, because at your stage we also didn't know anything. These all things were very new for us also. So until and unless you ask questions and clear your doubts, you will not be able to learn the concept of this engineering graphics completely. And then what will happen if you don't understand this lecture properly, and if you don't basically understand the purpose of each line and how they are drawn, you will keep on repeating the mistakes in every sheet, and then in every sheet you will lose your marks. So this lecture is very important, and this particular slide is again very important, because these types of lines you will be drawing in every sheet. Most of the lines you will be drawing in every sheet. Now this is basically a machine part. This is your isometric view of the machine part. As you can see, this is the isometric view, then your top view, front view, and the side view, or the right hand view. Now coming to the arrowhead. Now this again is very important. Most of the students make mistake in drawing the arrowhead till their last sheets. So again, you have to keep in mind that your if the thickness of your dimension line is W, then the width of this arrow will be 3W and the length of this arrow will be 9W. Again, you need not to measure the dimension of the arrow with the help of your drafter, but while drawing the arrows, keep in mind that you follow these ratios, 1:3:3, okay, which means that this, if the width of the line is 1, then the width of the arrow will be 3 and the length of the arrow will be 9, okay. And the arrows are always drawn at the end of the dimension line, okay, or the leader line, because leader line is used for dimensioning your circles and radius. Now this slide is very important. Go through the slide and I'll basically explain you each point. Now this slide basically shows you some, before going on to this slide and telling you the technical details of how to dimension. First of all, let's see what are the common mistakes which you people make. And again, I'm telling you, this dimensioning thing is very important, because in every sheet you are going to dimension the parts, and if you don't learn the method of dimensioning properly in this lecture itself, you will be making mistakes in every coming lecture. So first of all, you can see that the dimension, which is 20 mm, is shown over here as correct and is shown over here as wrong. This is because you will always, and keep this in mind, I'll repeat this again and again, that you will always dimension the parts of the object outside the object. For example, you need, if it is possible to dimension any distance of the machine part outside the machine part itself, you will always do so, okay. कभी भी आप इस डायमेंशन को अंदर नहीं शो करेंगे अगर आप इसको बाहर शो कर सकते हैं तो. For example, as you can see here, that this dimension is mentioned inside or over the object, that's why it has marked as wrong, and when it is shown outside the object, it is marked as right. Now obviously the circle is inside the machine part, and you have to dimension it inside the machine part itself, but wherever it is possible, for example like this, wherever it is possible, you will always try to dimension them outside the machine part or outside the object, okay. I hope I am clear about this point, that always try to dimension the distances outside the machine part if it is possible. If it is not possible, then but obvious you have to dimension it inside also, okay. And always keep in mind that for a complete circle, you will always mention the diameter. You will never mention the radius of a complete circle. For example, you have a complete hole over here, so that's why it has been the diameter of the hole is given. Similarly, the diameter of the hole is given over here. And whenever you are dimensioning the dimension of a circle, you are showing the diameter, you will always use arrow on both the ends, okay. This is basically showing me that this diameter is from here to here. Similarly, this is showing me that this diameter is from here to here. So as I told you already, that you have to draw the arrowhead at the ends of the dimension line or the leader line. And whenever there is a complete circle, you will always use the diameter of the circle to dimension that particular circle. And if it is an arc, then obviously you have to use the radius of the circle. Now secondly, there are two different methods by which you can dimension the object. The first one is align method and the second one is unidirectional method. Now in the align method, what you will do, you will make a straight line, or your dimension line will be continuous, and over the dimension line you will write the dimension, always over the dimension line, always. In the align method, you will always dimension the dimensions, basically you will always write the dimension above the dimension line, okay, like this. You will never, if you will write 30 over here, it will be wrong. If you will write 30 over here like this, again it will be wrong. It should be above the line like this, okay. So in the align method, you write the dimension above the dimension line, okay. And in the unidirectional method, what you do, you break the dimension line at the center and then you write all the dimensions horizontally, okay. You write all the dimensions horizontally, okay. Now the difference, I hope the difference is clear. It's very simple, that for an align method you will always write the dimension line will be continuous and you will always write the dimension above the line. And for the unidirectional system, you will write the you basically break the dimension line at the center and write all the dimensions horizontally, okay. Now in this particular lab, we try to follow the align system of dimensioning, but feel free to use any method, be it aligned or unidirectional. The only point which you need to keep in mind, that don't mix both the dimension methods on a particular or on a single sheet. Either use the align method or use unidirectional method, but don't try to mix both the methods, because if you will try to mix the method, then you will again lose marks. So you can use either of the method. You can use either align method or unidirectional method. You can use some method in the first sheet and some other method in the second sheet, but on a particular sheet you have to follow a single method, and it's better if you go for align method, okay. Now coming back to the slide, there are some points written over here. You go through this. I'll basically be explaining all those points. Now suppose this is your object, which is drawn with the help of continuous thick line. This is your projection line, okay. There is a small gap between the object and the projection line, okay. There is a small gap, and this gap should be equal to approximately 3 mm. This gap should be equal to approximately 3 mm. Again, you need not to measure this distance, but try to keep the distance as close as 3 mm. Then you will always dimension the length, or you will always write the dimension 6 to 8 mm away from the edge of the object. So this distance must be at least 6 to 8 mm. Basically it should be in between 6 to 8 mm. And then again, if you have to write another dimension, then again the distance between the two dimensions should be 6 to 8 mm, okay. So you have to write the dimensions 6 to 8 mm away from the edge of the object, and then for drawing the projection line, you need to leave a gap of at least 3 mm or somewhat equal to 3 mm, and then draw from the edge of the object. The third point which I need to tell you is, you will not end your projection line at this point, okay. You will always extend the projection line somewhat about 3 mm again from the dimension line. This is your dimension line and this is your projection line. So as you can see that from this arrowhead, this projection line is further extended, and this length should be somewhat equal to 3 mm. Again, you need not to measure this distance, but try to make it close to 3 mm. So I have already told you that try to keep the dimension outside the view as far as possible, which means that you could have dimensioned this basically this length inside the object also, but that would have been wrong, because it was possible to dimension this length outside the object. That's why it has been shown outside the object. So as far as possible, dimension should be placed outside the view. The next thing is dimensions basically should be taken from the visible outline. Okay, they should always be taken from the visible outline. For example, the diameter of this hole is shown to you over here, where the circle has been drawn with the continuous thick line. You could have also somebody would have also used this hidden line to dimension this circle, but that would have been wrong. So always you should be careful to take the dimension from the visible lines and not from the hidden or some other line. Okay. Now the other thing which has to be kept in mind while dimensioning is that each feature should be dimensioned only once. For example, if you have a hole in your geometry and it is being shown in all the 3 views, so you will not dimension that hole in all 3 views. First of all, you need to dimension that hole with the help of continuous line where the hole is actually present and it has not been shown with the help of hidden line. And secondly, you will always dimension that particular hole only once in your drawing. If that hole is appearing to you in all the views, then also you will dimension it in either of the view, in either of the view, either in the elevation or the plan. And then another very important point is that you need to be consistent with your units. So in this lab, we always use mm as our standard unit, and you will always write the dimension in mm, and you need not to write mm after the dimension. Okay, this is not the correct way. You will only write 45 over here, and then at the bottom of your sheet, you will write all dimensions are in mm. Okay, you will write all dimensions are in mm, and you have to be consistent with the units. If you are using mm, then you will dimension all the features using unit itself. Okay, you cannot use somewhere and then centimeter somewhere. So as a standard in this class, we use millimeters as the standard unit, and you also have to use the millimeter as the standard unit. And then at the bottom, you have to write all dimensions are in and nowhere else you need to write the unit of the dimension length. Okay. Now again, you will try to basically use minimum dimension to represent your object. Okay, so you will try to use the minimum dimension to show your object. For example, suppose this total length is 45, this length is 15, and the remaining is the remaining 30 mm is here. So you have already shown that the complete length is 45. Then you need to dimension either of these two distances. If you are dimensioning this distance, then you need not to dimension this, because this will be repetition of the dimension. You have already told that this total length is 45, and if you are showing that this length is 30, then automatically it will make this length as 15, and you need not to show this length. I hope the rules for the dimension, the types of dimensioning method is clear to you. Now there are different types of dimensioning method. This one shown over here is a parallel dimensioning method, where you have a reference line and all the dimensions are shown with respect to this reference line. But then as you can see that this method takes a lot of space for dimensioning. On the contrary, this chain dimensioning method is very efficient in terms of spacing, because as you can see that this part and this part, both parts are same, and over here we have used parallel dimensioning method, which have taken a lot of space, and over here we have used chain dimensioning method, which hasn't taken any space as compared to the parallel dimensioning method. So it's better not to use the parallel dimensioning method, and the best way to do it is the combined dimensioning method, where you have shown some distances as parallel as a chain dimensioning method and some distances as parallel dimensioning method. So it's better to use the combination of both the dimensioning method, and try to avoid this parallel dimensioning method, because it takes a lot of space. Now so I have already told you that whenever there is a complete circle, you will dimension the circle with the help of the diameter of the circle. You will always show the diameter of the circle like this, or like this, or like this. And whenever there is an incomplete circle or an arc or half of the circle, you will always show basically the diameter of that circle, as shown over here, and over here. And whenever you are showing the diameters, you will keep in mind that you need to draw the arrows at the end of the dimension line. This line over here is known as leader line, over which you have written the dimension. And for the radius, you only need to draw a single arrow. Now these are some instruments which you will be needing for this lab. The first one is a mini drafter, and you can easily find these instruments at any stationery shop. These are very common one, and the first one is a mini drafter. Then you have to take two types of pencil. The first one is H grade pencil, and the second one is 2H grade pencil. This H grade pencil is used for printing the letters, and this 2H pencil is used for drawing all the other types of basically all the types of lines. So your machine part will be drawn with the help of 2H, and all the writing work will be done with the help of H grade pencil. Third, you need an eraser, which is obvious. You need a knife, which is basically a paper cutter. Okay, this is to sharpen the pencil. Then you need a brown paper, you need a cleaning cloth, you need a tape, you need a compass, a big one and a small one. You need a drawing board. Okay, since these the classes are basically going on in an offline mode, and you need to complete or draw the sheets at your home itself, so that's why you need a drawing board. For those of you who had a table over which you can attach a drafter, then for those students, you need not to buy this drawing board. For all the others who don't have a convenient table where you can attach the drafter, you need to buy the drawing board. Then you need a sandpaper. Again, this knife and sandpapers are basically used to make the pencil or to sharpen the pencil. We don't use the sharpener in this class, and I'll tell you in the coming slides why we don't use in a moment I'll tell you why we don't use the sharpener in this class. But before that, you can see that there are three things which are written in red, and you need not to use these three things for this lab. The first one is a scale, because your drafter is sufficient. You don't need a separate scale. This will only basically, you will never be able to draw a straight line or a line parallel to the borders with the help of scale. That's why you will always be using mini drafter. Second one, you will never use a protector. Okay, you will never use a protector to draw the angles. Your drafter is sufficient for the scale and the protector. The third one is HB pencil. It will be clearly visible to us that if you will draw your drawings with the help of a HB pencil, it will be clearly visible to us, and you will lose your marks, and a heavy amount of marks, because we are very serious about the grade of pencil in this class and the intensity of the line. You will never get the proper intensity with the help of HB pencil. Now all the other things you are common one. You must be wondering why we are telling you to buy a knife and a sandpaper. So in order to make a pencil, you will be needing the knife and the sandpaper. Your 2H pencil will be basically, you will use your knife to make a chisel shape edge of a 2H pencil. Now this is very important, and listen very carefully, that if you will sharpen your pencil, your 2H pencil, with the help of sharpener, the intensity, since when you draw a line, the lead of the pencil will be used, and the intensity of the line will keep on changing if you will sharpen the pencil with the help of sharp. So it will be clearly visible when it is very clearly visible when the intensity of the lines are changing, and it is not a good practice to draw the lines of different intensity in this lab or for the engineering graphics. As I told you in the earlier slides itself, that the intensity of line conveys many things about the drawing. So it is very important. That's why we tell you to make the 2H pencil in a chisel shape, where the intensity of the lines will be uniform. Okay, and you need not to sharpen the pencil again and again. Okay, you will get a uniform intensity with the help of sharpener also, but then you need to sharpen the pencil again and again, and within one sheet you have to use more than one pencils. But if you will make a chisel shaped pencil, you will always get a uniform line, and your pencil will last longer. Okay, now again, for the 2H, you can use sharpener for H pencil, because you only need to print the letters, and you hardly need to print any letters. You only need to write the title and then the dimension. Okay, all the dimension or all the writing part will be done with the help of H pencil, and all the lines which is to be drawn is with the help of 2H. So please make a chisel edge for a 2H pencil, because it will give you a uniform intensity of the line, and it will last longer. And then you need to use, sometimes what we do, we give you 3 to 4 problems in a sheet, and then you need to use both the sides of your drawing paper sheet. So if you'll basically use a brown paper before fixing your sheet, your other side of the sheet will not get dirty. Similarly, the purpose of the cleaning cloth is also same, so that whenever you rub something which has been drawn incorrectly, you will use a eraser, and then if you will try to remove the remaining part of the eraser, or the debris which are coming out of the eraser with your naked hand, your sheet might get dirty. That's why we advise you to use a cleaning cloth for cleaning the sheet. Then tape is to basically fix the sheet on the drawing board. Compass is to make the arc and the circles, and drawing board is obvious. On the drawing board you are going to fix the sheet and the draft. So for making a chisel edge, you will have to basically remove the wooden part of the pencil with the help of a knife, and then rub the pencil over a sandpaper for 10 to 15 times, and then rotate the pencil 180 degrees, and then repeat the same process in order to get the chisel edge pencil. So these are the instruments. Please go and buy them as soon as possible and start your work. Now you must have noticed that I have always used the word printing and not writing. That is because uh, we are having about more than 70 students in a class, and the writing of each student must be different. But whatever you are going to write on this sheet, or whatever you are going to write in this class, will always you will always follow this same font, this same font. So all the students in my class or in this lab will write A in this fashion only. You will write M in this fashion only. You will write 3 in this fashion only. So that's why I was again and again using this word, that you are going to print the letters on the alphabet. So have a look at all the alphabets and try to memorize them. Use only these fonts, and any other, if you are going to write or print in any other font, or if you are going to print in italics, that will be considered as wrong. And again, dimensioning and writing part is very important, and you are going to lose your marks for printing the alphabets and numbers incorrectly. Okay, so this is very important. Now in the first sheet, you have to basically divide the sheet into two halves, and then you have to write all these points in the left part of the sheet, and you have to draw this figure and in the right part of the sheet. Okay, so I'll tell you how to draw the margins, what are the purpose of margin, how to basically start your sheet, and where to write the title. Again, you have always keep in mind, you people make mistake almost in every sheet. The title should always be at the center of the sheet. The title should always be at the center of the sheets, and there in order to write the title, you have to draw the guidelines. And the purpose of the guidelines is to guide you. Basically the title should be within the specified width. That's why you are going to draw the guidelines, and that's why the intensity of the guideline should be minimum. It should be barely visible. Your guideline should be barely visible, and always draw the guidelines within the needed area. You need not to draw the guidelines all over your sheets. Okay, now suppose this white part is your board, your drawing board, and this blue part with this red part is your sheet. So first of all, what you will do, you will draw the margins. This red portion is basically showing you the area inside the margin. Now first of all, you will fix your drafter over here. Okay, I'll make another video for fixing the sheet, and then you need to tape these four corners of the sheet. You need to fix a tape. Okay, now you have to draw the margin. This margin should be, this margin should be 35. This should be 15. This again should be 15, and then again 15. So the top, the bottom, and the right margin should be 15. Your top, your bottom, and the right margins are 15, and the left margin is 35. Know the idea behind drawing this border. The idea is that your sheet might not be perfectly rectangular. Okay, your sheet might have rough edges. This edge might be something, obviously I'm drawing the exaggerated view, but this edge might be something like this. Okay, so your sheet might not have might not be a perfect rectangle. That's why we draw the border, so that whenever we draw any machine parts inside this border, it looks aligned to the border. Otherwise it would look somewhat tilted or rotated if the edges of the sheets are not properly rectangular, which is hardly in any case. So the idea of drawing the borders is that whatever drawing you are going to draw inside this this area, will look aligned to the border and it will look nice and straight. The second thing is that when you are going to draw the border, you will always measure the distance at one particular point, only. For example, and that particular point will be at the center of the sheet. You are going to measure this distance of 25 from this point only, okay, from this point, and then you will extend, you will make a line passing through this, a straight line passing through this point. Similarly, you will measure the distance of 15 mm at the center and then make a straight line. Mind it, all the dimensions are in millimeters, okay, and then make a straight line passing through that point with the help of drafter. The second thing is that you must have noticed that while for drawing this border, I have taken the distance only from one point, and the second thing is that I have taken this point at the center itself, okay. The reason for that is if I'll keep on measuring the 15 mm distance from all the points, for example, I'll measure 15 mm from here, it will come somewhat over here, then I'll measure 15 from here, it will come somewhat here, then again I'll measure 15 from here, then it will come somewhat here. So you can see that if I'll keep on measuring the distances at different points and then draw a straight line passing through those points, I'll get the same, basically this line will not be straight, okay, it will not be horizontal. Again I'll get the same error as it was there in the sheet. So again I'll not get a perfect rectangle, I'll again get the shape of the sheet itself. That's why I'll only measure the distance at one point from here to here, which is 15 for the top margin, right margin and the bottom margin, and then extend or make a line passing through that point. Secondly, I am measuring the distance from the center itself and not from the right or the left point, because as you can see that if your sheet would have been in this form, obviously this is an exaggerated view, so it might happen that your margin, if you'll measure 15 from here, suppose 15 from here, okay, so it might happen that your border might cross the sheet itself, okay. So that's why, and similarly if you are measuring from here and make a straight line, so this distance will be very large. That's why we measure from the center of the sheet itself, and so that this border does not pass over the sheet and it basically looks proper, okay. That's why we always measure from the center of the sheet. And I already told you about the margins. It should be 25, 15, 15, 15, and then this red area is basically your working area. This white one was your board, this this blue plus this red area is your sheet, and this red area is the area basically inside the border, and this is your working area. Then, and it is again very important, I forgot to tell you that you need not to write these dimensions. The dimensions of the margins are not to be written, okay. Again, you will measure a distance of 5 mm from here. You will measure a distance of 5 mm from the top border and make a guideline. And in the width of 8 mm, the width is 8 mm, okay. This width is 8 mm and this width is 5 mm. So you have to leave a gap of 5 mm from the top margin and then draw the top guideline, and then leaving a gap of 8 mm you need to draw the bottom guideline. Again, you need not to write this dimension. This is for you to remember that you have to leave 5 mm from the top margin, and then within the width of 8 mm you have to write the title. Title, as I told you, should be printed properly as given in your problem sheet, okay. And as I was telling you that these two lines are guidelines. It is to be drawn with the minimum intensity. It should be barely visible, and it is to be drawn only in the needed area. You need not to draw the guidelines starting from the left margin to the right margin. You only need to draw the guidelines in your required area, After that, what you will do, you will make a straight line at the center of the sheet and divide the sheet into two portions. This is part A and this is part B. Okay. In part B, you will draw that figure which I have shown you in the previous slide, and in part A, you will write all the content which I have shown you in basically in the previous slide. Again, in order to write, you need to make the guidelines. The guidelines should be of 4 mm. You have to write the content in 4 mm and then leave a gap of 5 mm. Between two guidelines, leave a gap of 5 mm and then again draw a line with the width of 4 mm. Again, you need not to mention these dimensions. You have to write here in a 4 mm width. You have to write here properly, not like I am writing. You have to write properly or print properly, and then leave a gap of 5 mm and then again start with the second line. Okay. So this is how you are going to make your first sheet. I hope the lecture was clear to you. I understand that it is difficult to get all the concept in a via online mode. So please feel free to ask any question. You can post your question on Google Classroom. You can mail me, or if you are having trouble, you can even call me, but try avoiding calling me. Okay, because if you'll post any question in the Google Classroom, I'll reply to you according to my convenience. But if you'll call me, so it might happen that that particular time is not the right time to talk to me. So if you want to call me, then also please email me first and take time and then call me. Okay. Similarly, those students who are local or who are residing in Aligarh, they can visit me at in my office also to ask any question. Obviously, this is not mandatory. I understand that the university is under lockdown and the students are still not allowed to come to the college because of the COVID this pandemic. So, but anyhow, you can take time from me via email or via Google Classroom or whichever way you like. And then you can come and meet me and ask the questions. Okay. So thanks a lot for listening the lecture so patiently. And remember that if you will not ask question, you will not be able to grasp the concepts properly. So I expect a lot of the questions, since this is the first sheet. So I expect not many questions from you, and all the best for the first sheet. So as I told you earlier, you need to submit a scanned copy of your sheet before the next lecture. Okay, before the next lecture. Thank you.